Thanks for being here tonight. My name is Mike Kanufke. I'm with the San Antonio Family Association, just one of the many associations related to the Sex Respect Coalition that Kelly started back in March, February, yeah. And I want to join me in thanking everyone who has put this together, to include Kelly and Patrick and Valerie and everyone else. So round of applause for those people that helped out. And I would also like to thank Stephen Garcia and Lily Von Dolan. And we thought it would be very appropriate to have these middle schoolers stand up so we can thank you. We thought it would be very appropriate to have them here so that you get a visual of the individual student that we're discussing here this evening. Okay? Let's start off with welcoming here tonight any Northeast Independent School District board members. Anyone? Any Northeast Independent School District employees? Anyone? Well, that's too bad. We invited them all, and we were hoping they'd show. But that's okay. We're here to discuss the new curriculum. It's wonderful to see everyone here and your concern for children. And for the record, we want to make certain that you understand that there is no conspiracy that we know of here. So if you came for just the conspiracy theorist side, there's probably not great news here for you. But there might be a derelict of duty. But we believe that probably the biggest thing is there are no facts supporting what has been proposed or what has passed. You see, the director, a trustee of the Northeast Independent School District, has an extensive ethics that they go through, and that policy and what they agree to, and I'll read that here in a second. The purpose of the trustee, just so there's no misunderstanding, is to set policy. Does everybody understand that? They don't get into micromanagement. They receive recommendations from committees and things of that nature, and they simply set policy. And that policy needs to be congruent with their mission and their vision of the Northeast Independent School District. Having said this, however, one does wonder why a trustee would vote for a new sex education program, draw the line and respect the line, that's the name of it, while at the same time honoring the code conduct under the ethics section in this particular manual for board members that reads, this section reads in full. I will tell the truth, that's number one. Number two, I will share my views while working for consensus. Number three, I will respect the majority decision as the decision of the board. And number four, the most concerning to us, and that is, I will base my decision on fact rather than supposition, opinion, or public favor. You know, it's like the old Wendy's commercial, right? Where's the beef? You guys remember that? Where's the beef? Well, we believe the trustees needed to be asking themselves, where are the facts? Where's the data? Because they were not forthcoming to us, not as parents. We've asked for it. We've not received anything. So I was hoping one of the Northeast Independent School District board members might be here to comment a little bit on that. So let's start. We have learned the Northeast Independent School District, via the Student Health Advisory Committee, has been looking for a sex education curriculum for the past 3 years, and that it was quite the ordeal according to them. Let's stop right there. We didn't even get started, we have to stop. We do not deny the fact that they spent 3 years in this ordeal. We do take exception, however, to their final choice. But we want our initial question answered. And it's simply, why do we need another program? Where's the data? Where's the facts? You see, we happen to know at the San Antonio Family Association, we happen to know, and we have experts in the room here, like Kay and others, we happen to know the teenage pregnancy rate in San Antonio has not changed in the last 30 to 40 years. Let me repeat that. The pregnancy rate has not changed in the last 30 to 40 years. So what I want to do is ask the district for empirical evidence as to why we even need this program. So what we want to do is we want to start off with, we hope to answer these questions, and then I'm going to introduce the first speaker. Go ahead, Patrick. I apologize. We were supposed to start off with a prayer and pledge. Stephen, if you would come up. We have a flag?
We have one right here, right there.
Oh, all right. There we go.
The pledge.
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
May God grant us the wisdom to discover the right, the will to choose it, and the strength to make it endure for the sake of children and long-term domestic prosperity. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Stephen. I apologize for that. So once again, we wanted to ask the district what measurements they have, what core measurements. Do they measure anything? So what precipitated the Northeast Independent School District's need for a new sexual education curriculum from the district's point of view? We simply don't know at this point, and again, the board has not answered us. Many of us in this room are familiar with, we're in business, we're familiar with marketing, things of this nature. And one thing we learn in marketing is that perception sells, right? Because perception to the beholder is indeed reality to them. And so in perceptions, we get that by pictures, values, communications, even buying patterns, right? You get ready to walk into a Walmart and the Google thing hits about, has that happened to you yet? And you get a coupon. It's incredible. And so all of these perceptions are known as impressions, and these impressions make a difference. So to hit home is Facebook. Facebook's a great example of perception. You see, with all the posts and the videos and the pictures, leads many people to believe that everybody has an exciting, great life except for me, because my life stinks. And it's not true, as we all know. So, since we did not get any empirical evidence, no scientific evidence here whatsoever, of any indicators whatsoever, is it possible the Northeast Independent School District has a false perception of reality? And that's our question to them. And we believe that is the case. Yes, we believe that is the case. At worst, it could be the Student Health Advisory Board had a hidden agenda. And we'll have someone address that here in a minute. So if you believe there is no evidence to support the change like we do, then why the change? Why this particular program? We have 4 areas that we hope to answer today. Kelly and Patrick will address these. First of all, is there evidence to indicate that there was a real need for this program? The second is, what should be taught to 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds? The third is, does draw the line, respect the line, step over the line in your eyes as a parent? And the last is, of the 30-plus evidence-based programs, it's 30-plus, right? In Texas, approved in Texas, why this one? We are confident at the end of today that you'll feel very confident of what the program has, the goods, the bads, those kinds of things. And lastly, we have had communication with the Northeast Independent School District, and you need to know that. And they have indicated that we've misrepresented their program on the web pages. That's Facebook and the sex ed pages. The We've asked them specifically to send us exactly what the curriculum is, so we wish to represent it correctly, and they have yet to do that. We've asked for information since May 9th, is that right, Patrick? Or way back when? And we haven't received that. So we don't wish to misrepresent it, but let me leave you with this point. On May 9th, when they voted for this, they said, we approve, draw the line, respect the line in its entirety. They didn't say, with the exception of this and this and this and this and this, okay? So my point is simply, they have carte blanche on the whole thing. So if they want to, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 9 years from now, add some of the props that they claim they don't have right now, they already have approval back in 2016. So, let me introduce the first speakers, Kelly Greshel. I'm sure all of you know Kelly. She's worked very hard at this. She's a mother of 3. She works hard at everything she does, and she is very passionate about this, and nobody knows this program and the shack and the internal workings like Kelly. So let's welcome Kelly to teach us a little bit more about this. Kelly?
I'll say about the computer here. Great. So just like Mike said, we have asked for any kind... we have asked for the curriculum in its entirety, and we have not received a response yet. Just to go over a little bit what Mike said, the way this works is the Student Health Advisory Committee is called the SHAC, so that's an important acronym. They recommend a curriculum. From there, it goes to the school board to be approved. The school board approved it, and it should be implemented in 2016, 2017. As parents, you have an option to opt in or to opt out, and by the end of this, we will be encouraging you to opt out and telling you a little bit about that. But that's basically the timeline for this year so far. Sorry. Okay, the state of Texas already has determined rules and guidelines. There is a Texas state code in which every single curriculum must follow. This is kind of an overview. It's hard to see it, but I can read it to you here. Number 1, this is the Texas Education Code 28.004. The number 2 there says devote more attention to abstinence from sexual activity than any other behavior. Number 4 says direct adolescents to a standard of behavior in which abstinence from sexual activity before marriage is the most effective way to prevent pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases, and infection with human immunodeficiency virus or acquired immune deficiency syndrome, and teach contraceptive and condom use in the terms of human use reality rates. Now, what does that mean? That means the stuff that they have done in a lab and tested in a lab is not really human use because it doesn't really account for variables and errors in the human person. So we cannot teach it with that 98% effectiveness rate because that's not really realistic, especially for a 12-year-old. And then last but not least, the school district shall make all curriculum materials used in the district's human and sexuality instruction available for reasonable public inspection. So does DTL is going to be our acronym for draw the line. Does it comply with the Texas Code? Is abstinence emphasized as the preferred choice? Is abstinence set as the expected standard of behavior for unmarried students? Is more attention devoted to condoms? Is condom effectiveness portrayed in human use reality or overemphasized as safe sex? So by the end of this presentation, you should be able to answer those questions for yourself. So grade 6, their objectives, and this is from the book, the emphasis is on situations in which youth may be pressured to steal, use alcohol, or smoke. The 5 lessons feature limit setting and refusal skills in a non-sexual context. Okay, so mostly just making good choices. Grade 7, that's when we have pressures regarding sexual intercourse. Grade 7 features short-term consequences of unplanned sex, information about sexually transmitted diseases, and applying refusal skills to party context. And grade 8, we will feature an HIV-positive speaker, practicing refusal skills during context and condom demonstrations. So already we see from the book, we go from good choices to sexual situations to condoms. So that's kind of their timeline. All right, I want y'all to see kind of the covers of these books because this is the age group that we are speaking to. Our young ones here, you may have noticed, have been asked to leave because some of this curriculum will be a little bit, you know, maybe they shouldn't be seeing that on a Wednesday evening. So our age group is 11, 12, and 13-year-olds. We're not talking about 18-year-olds. We're not talking about 17-year-olds. These are young kids who, are just starting to, run around and get a little bit taller, and that's what we're working with. All right, so there is a bit of law that kind of comes into play here. In all 3 grade levels, draw the line, treat sex as an eventuality that a child should be ready for by protecting themselves with condoms. In reality, sex under the age of 13 is illegal. Penal Code 22.11 has determined without exception that a minor cannot consent to sex at the vulnerable age of 12. This makes sense because if a 9-year-old is having sex, something is very, very wrong. This law was put into place to protect children from being exploited and abused. In fact, in general, a minor under the age of 17 cannot consent to sex, but there are a few exceptions depending on boyfriend-girlfriend status. And then a curriculum that truly wanted to protect children would reinforce these laws and help students understand when and where to get help. Because I think we can all agree that at 12 years old, if they're in a sexual situation, there's a possibility that there's some exploitation or even some abuse there. Now, if they're told that it's perfectly normal at 12 years old to be having sex and here's how you put on a condom, that's going to make it a lot easier for their abusers now, isn't it? And I'm going to let Patrick take over. He has the most disturbing part, and I felt too uncomfortable to talk about it, so he has graciously offered to do that for me.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm not sure what that says about me, but thank you for the humility lesson. Well, sadly, and you can see up here, but you also, we took out the educator kit and put it in the back as well. We took it out once Lily and Stephen had left the room, because it does involve some explicit material that you can see pictured here. So the Northeast ISD has approved a curriculum called Draw the Line, Respect the Line, DTL, RTL. And in that, the manufacturer of that and producer of that curriculum is called ETR. And ETR Associates, just so you know, was originally owned and promoted by Planned Parenthood, none other than Planned Parenthood. They have now since distanced themselves in the last couple of years. But there is a strong connection to Planned Parenthood. And if you look at this, and as you go through this, I'd like you to contemplate what better business model is there for an organization or business that makes money off the exploitation and the promotion of sexual activity, predominantly amongst young people, and who would be considered in an unplanned pregnancy situation. And one of the quotes that comes from this brochure up here, that says condom facts, on the back of it, here, thank you, actually inside of it, it says, in this blue area, it says, using condoms is like wearing a seatbelt all the time. It takes practice to make it a habit. Now, in full disclosure, the Northeast Independent School District has said that they're not planning on using this material. But as Mike mentioned, when they approved the vote on May 9th, they approved the sex education curriculum, there was no motion made to restrict any use of any items of the ETR produced curriculum called Draw the Line, Respect the Line. This is part of Draw the Line, Respect the Line curriculum produced by ETR. So they believe, and in the videos, you might see one here in a little bit, that they believe that the more the practice, the more you enjoy it, and the safer you'll be because you'll have more practice putting on a condom like you would putting on a seatbelt in the car. So how atrocious that is. And so one of the other things that they recommend in this is that you use latex condoms, not other forms of condoms. I was recently walking in just 2 days ago, was walking in, my son's in band, and we're practicing outside, and went to one of the Northeast Independent School District high schools, and walked in the door, and when I walked in the door, there's a picture of a bunch of balloons stuck on the doors of the main building, and it says, no latex balloons allowed inside. Now, you might or might not know this, but in high school, it's legal in the state of Texas to actually distribute latex condoms. So isn't it ironic and that you would have a prohibition on latex balloons coming into a place that you can legally distribute latex condoms? Just a paradox there. Something to think about in the way. This QR code right here that you all can click on in one of the brochures back in the back will actually take you to the 3 videos that will play one of them here for you. And in those 3 videos, it goes through this and encourages children to practice. And through practice, it becomes more enjoyable, and as you practice, it becomes safer, in their opinion. So, why the need for this parent education seminar is that all the parent has to do is opt their child in or out of this program. And Kelly will cover more of that later. But what about those parents that are disengaged? So the Northeast Independent School Districts told us verbatim that there's a rise in what they call economically disadvantaged students. And they have an acronym for it, EDS, economically disadvantaged students. There's a high growth. Matter of fact, Northeast Independent School District, they say, has the highest growth rate of economically disadvantaged students than any other district in the city. Now, there's 16 school districts in the city of San Antonio, 17 if you count pre-K for SA. And in that, so most of them are inside Loop 410. But remember that Northeast Independent School District extends all the way down past Loop 410, south of there, all the way down to including Lee High School, past Blessed Sacrament Parish, just north of downtown. So it extends quite large. It's one of the largest districts in the city. Well, in that, so the Northeast Independent School District mission, I'd like to read it to you, is we challenge and encourage each student to achieve and demonstrate academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship. I summarize that by saying that responsible citizenship is a trustworthy Texan. So how do we build trustworthy Texans? And what do we expose them to? Because Northeast Independent School District will tell you that these are life skills that children need to know now. And that was almost verbatim testimony given on May 9th before the vote, before City Council, before Northeast Independent School District, before they took the vote in deliberation, was children need to learn life skills that will serve them for the rest of their life, and this is part of it. Well, so who has rights in this situation? The children certainly do. Children deserve to be protected and have safety and self-defense, have a virtuous education on objective truth to help them become trustworthy students and trustworthy Texans. Parents have rights. Parents have rights to teach their children about religion and sex or avoiding it, if that's their choice. And it's over the line for any political community or political authority, in this case, Northeast Independent School District, to exaggerate or abuse that line. Northeast Independent School District has said that parents are not doing this, particularly in the economically disadvantaged students. The parents are disengaged and not teaching their children this, so we feel compelled to do it. So they are stepping over that parental authority line. Well, rights of parents are being circumvented as a result, in our opinion, in their parental authority, because one of the worst things is on the back of this, if you go one forward, Kelly, on the back of this condom facts, it says, one more, if you would. I'm sorry, go back. It says on there that if your condom breaks, call your doctor. Thank you. Let me read it verbatim. Ask your healthcare provider about emergency contraceptive pills. They can prevent pregnancy if a condom breaks. So not only do we have a situation where we have sex education that's promoting condoms and active use of them to practice so that you can be better and more proficient at it, so you can have more fun and enjoy yourself, that if a condom breaks, they're promoting emergency contraceptive pills. Well, in this very statement, it doesn't say contact your parents. It doesn't say contact your doctor and your parents. It is circumventing in this attempt. It could be appropriately construed that they're trying to circumvent a parent, that if a condom breaks in their potential pregnancy, that they're going to seek out emergency contraceptive pills. Well, emergency contraceptive pills, what's called Plan B, correct? Plan B is a chemical contraceptive drug that eradicates conception and if the child was conceived, an embryo is flushed from the woman's system all at once. So, and that's very dangerous for a young child and very harmful for their bodies. So when does a legitimate authority lose its authority? How many have ever heard of the mandate from heaven? It's really big in particularly Asian countries, a mandate from heaven in royalty. When a king would claim a mandate from heaven that he has absolute authority to make good governing choices based on a virtuous lifestyle and making virtuous choices for his people. However, that mandate from heaven ceases to exist when you no longer lead a virtuous life or make virtuous rules that are helpful to citizenship. So what we believe here is Northeast ISD, and they've done some good things, and I will compliment them on some things. I am a parent of seven of my 9 children are in Northeast Independent School District schools, and they range from high school down to elementary school. Well, but it's our opinion in this case the Northeast Independent School District has made not only a terrible choice, but a choice that they lose their mandate. Not that they ever had a mandate from heaven, but they have a mandate from the people who elected them to give them authority to make decisions like this. And in this case, they've lost that mandate and authority because parents, independent school districts are set up so that you have local control. And that local control, parents need to exercise that. And that's why we're having these education seminars. So we must ask ourselves, what's the best way to build a child's self-esteem? To help a child lose their virginity? To try to find love, quote love, by giving themselves to another for someone else's selfish pleasure? Or to help them protect their dignity, virtue, and virginity, and know that anyone worth their total love is worth waiting for? Is patience still alive? Is patience still a virtue? There's an old joke when I was growing up, patience is a virgin, right? I'm sure some of you all have heard that. Well, that's true. Well, Northeast Independent School District does a good job of promoting virtues. Matter of fact, they promote virtues so well that, are we going to have this in there? Okay, we're not. They teach what's called 7 habits of highly effective, what's taken from 7 habits of highly effective people and changed into 7 habits of happy kids. And the 7 habits of happy kids include be proactive. I'm in charge of me. That's 1. Begin with the end in mind. Have a plan. Put first things first. Work first and play. Think win-win. Everyone can win. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Listen before you talk. Synergize. Together is better. Sharpen the saw for balance. So these things right here are all very good. Do they teach them in elementary school? They do. Do they teach them in middle school? They do. Do they teach them in high school? They do. So you see that there is a consistency in application from that standpoint, and it's not only intellectually honest, it's also scholastically consistent, and that's a good thing. The other things that they teach are compassion, responsibility, perseverance, self-discipline, honesty, respect, and giving. And those are usually taught during what they call Red Ribbon Week. And so all those are taught in elementary school, middle school, and high school. All very good things to teach children. Except it's interesting that self-discipline, responsibility, and perseverance are thrown out the window when it comes to sex. So next one I'd like to go to, we're going to have this one. Okay, I'll pass this around right up in the back. But some things before we go any further, you might go to a different one so I don't have to look at that. One further, there you go. So it's perfect, actually. There are examples of risk avoidance and risk reduction. Okay, what are we talking about? Those are two technical terms. Risk avoidance and risk reduction are 2 technical terms when it comes to sex ed. Okay, risk avoidance is what Northeast Independent School District actually had previously. It was called Choose the Best Path, and had been there for several years. So risk avoidance is where you have abstinence or you're trying to eliminate a risk. So some examples. What are some examples of risk avoidance? You have the school entrance only. How many people drop off their children to school? You have one-way direction on how to drop off the children. That's risk avoidance. If you had 2-way traffic, that would be risk reduction. That's risk avoidance and risk reduction. Immunizations is risk avoidance. Lice-free attendance. So a child that has lice, can they come to school? No, not if they know they have lice. They might be coming if they do, but that's risk reduction. Risk avoidance is when a child is diagnosed with having lice, they don't come to school. Segregated grades, so 6th grade is separated from 5th grade, and separated from 4th grade, and they all stay in their own little areas for numerous reasons. But that's risk avoidance. A one-way lunch line, no cheating, no smoking cigarettes. A risk avoidance is no smoking cigarettes. Risk reduction is smoking filtered cigarettes. See the difference? It's not that you don't, and risk avoidance says no smoking. That's the curriculum before, no smoking. Risk reduction, it says, if you're going to smoke, then make sure you smoke filtered cigarettes. That's what risk reduction is. So they take the assumption here that kids are going to do it anyway. Well, they don't take that attitude on kids are going to do it anyway on anything but the sex ed curriculum and sexual activity. So when it comes to no smoking, Northeast Independent School District's policy is excellent. It's no smoking. It's not an exception, or if you choose to, it's always no smoking. It's no drugs, it's no bullying, it's no drinking and driving, it's no guns, no knives, no texting and driving. If they don't say, if you're going to text and drive, make sure it's in a phone case. They don't say, if you're going to bully, make sure you have boxing gloves on. That's the difference between risk avoidance and risk reduction. They don't say, if you're going to use drugs, make sure you put on, and if you're going to use a bong, and there's smoke in there, they don't say, if you're going to use drugs, make sure you put on goggles, protect your eyes. So you see, if we go back to what they teach in habits and virtues, it's consistent through elementary school, middle school, and high school. But when it comes to things like, and it's consistent when it comes to life-free attendance, no cheating, no smoking, no drugs, no bullying, no drinking, driving, no guns, no texting and driving, male and female bathrooms separate, that's risk avoidance. Having male bathrooms and female bathrooms, that's risk avoidance. Risk reduction is having unisex bathrooms. One-way streets is another one. So all those, Northeast Independent School District does a great job of being consistent in sharing in elementary, middle school, and high school that with intellectual integrity and scholastic consistency, that they are consistent in saying it's no exceptions, it's this way. We do not embrace any other thing or condone any other method, except when it comes to sex. Because kids are going to do it anyway. Well, I think we'd all agree kids are going to do drinking and driving and all those other things too, if they choose to. But we don't encourage it in any way, shape, or form. The Northeast Independent School District doesn't encourage it in any way, shape, or form, except when it comes to sex. So, what does Northeast Independent stance say to students? It says, no sex, but if you choose to, make sure you wear a condom to middle schoolers ages 11 to 13. The two children that came in here are 11 and 9, actually. My daughter's a tall girl, but she... My 12-year-old couldn't be here. She had her tonsils taken out yesterday. So, nonetheless, it's to those children, those age children, that they're saying, if you choose to have sex, make sure you wear a condom. How preposterous to introduce something like that to children to even consider. Because what happens when people consider it? They start to explore it. They start to investigate it. Why does the United States of America why does the United States of America never pay a ransom on a kidnapped person? Because the exploitation and the kidnapping would actually increase. So, and this is the same case. If you introduce children to something, exploitation like this, material like this, and what's going to happen? They're going to start exploring it more. So, why the exception? 99% of all Northeast Independent School District curriculum is good and consistent and intellectually honest, except when it comes to sex. It's permissiveness, it's tolerance, and it's intellectually dishonest. So is there more happening behind the scenes? So going through this, on the left is sexual risk avoidance, abstinence, and on the right is sexual risk reduction, SRR, which is what they call comprehensive sex. The code word for that is comprehensive sex education. So there's code words for lots of things in this. So in sexual risk avoidance, by law, you have to devote more than 50% of page content to promoting abstinence. Whereas in sexual risk reduction on the right-hand side, they tend to devote less than 5% to abstinence. Now, Kelly went through this. In the Texas Education Code, it's mandates. All sex education in the state of Texas has to be at 50% or more based on abstinence. What happens in sexual risk reduction? It's less than 50%. And that's our contention. One of our contentions with this curriculum is that it is not only a sexual risk reduction on the right-hand side, but it's less than 50% promoting abstinence. Now, they'll cover it up. They tend to cover it up in the books. You can look back here. Kelly's gone through it a lot, marked a lot. But you'll see where they throw in the word abstinence here and there throughout a page. But it's really focused on promotion of condoms. So the focus on sexual risk avoidance or abstinence is risk elimination. And on the right-hand side, on risk reduction is risk reduction. So in order to reduce risk, because you're going to introduce children to sexual intercourse, and that might be sexual intercourse, as they explain in the kit, is anal, oral, or vaginal. They promote all three. And is the use of is contraceptive use, particularly in their case, in middle school, draw the line, respect the line, is condoms. The message on the sexual risk avoidance, which was the program they had under Choose the Best Path, was focused on abstinence. On the others, mixed. And as a matter of fact, it's overt on the condom side. And the philosophy is that teen sex or casual sex and sexual risk avoidance or abstinence is problematic in itself. And that the best way to prevent pregnancy is to abstain. And the best way to avoid sexual transmitted diseases is to not engage in sexual intercourse. On the right-hand side, the philosophy is as long as contraception is used, teen sex or casual sex sex is unproblematic. How many of us want our children being exposed to this? I certainly don't. Continuing on B here, teen sex is expected and a natural part of healthy sexual development. How many children, 11 to 13-year-old in middle school, have thoughts on their own, as a general rule, stereotypically, about having sex? It would be a fraction of 1%, right? There might be some, but a fraction of 1%. And the behavioral goal is increased contraceptive use, especially condoms. So going back to the developers of ETR that produced Draw the Line, Respect the Line, what's the connection? They were once owned by Planned Parenthood. What's a better business model for a company, a business, a huge business, to promote sexual activity way before their time to do it? It's, in recent scientific studies, it's now been determined that an individual's brain is not fully developed until age 24. That means we cannot make fully rational, logical choices until age 24 or after. So how do we expect children half that age to be making reasonable choices? Yeah, next.
All right, thank you, Patrick. And I would encourage you to go ahead and look in your folder. We have the condom lesson plan. Northeast ISD says it will not be using this particular condom lesson plan, but like I say, you could pop the hood ornament off of a Ford, but you are still driving a Ford. So even if they take one piece out, they have built the lesson plan to eventually lead up to this Herman uses the condom. All right, so meet Tina and Marco. So if you continue to look in that packet, I've given you the full lesson. You just have to scroll through there, or thumb through there a little bit, but Tina and Marco. And these are sexual role plays, and there are quite a few in the actual curriculum. And you would think that if we are talking about teaching kids a healthy way to do things, we would practice the right way to do things instead of the wrong way. But in this case, Tina and Marco go to a party, they get drunk, and then they go, there's no parents there, so then they go in the parents' room and they have sex. And in the morning they wake up and we discuss consequences after that. So, Tina and Marco, not a very good example of teaching kids how to do things in a positive and respectful way. And here's that worksheet of what it is the next morning. And they discuss things like, oh, Tina might be pregnant, so where can they go? Maybe one of these health centers we're talking about?
That's the second lesson in 7th grade.
Yes, this is 7th grade. If you look at the bottom of all of your papers, it says which grade it is. Okay. All right, James and Alana. James and Alana, they're more on the sex pressure side. And she has a friend, Alana has a friend who thinks it's cool to have sex, and then, Alana has a boyfriend, and they're not sure if they should have sex. And then towards the bottom, you'll see I've highlighted, it says, then he thinks this must feel as good to her as it does to me, otherwise she would tell me right. Can we talk about the date rape culture, where we don't actually communicate whether or not somebody wants to have sex, but we just continue on until somebody finally says no, maybe? This is, again, one of those kinds of situations where we're teaching kids how to do it wrong instead of how to do it right. All right, our next lesson is Trina and Kashid. No, this one, they are about to have sex, but their parents walk in. But it does go into some detail about how they get to the point of about to be having sex. There's kissing, there's touching. A lot of 13-year-olds don't necessarily know all the processes up to that point, so this is a real great way to learn. So another bad example of lesson plan that does not promote abstinence first, but again teaches them how to do the wrong thing. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, great. And then, so our parents' rights being involved. Our parents' rights to be involved in their children's medical care being undermined and usurped in detail. Once children have been taught how to have sex, like Tina and Marco, through role plays and condom demonstrations, Draw the Line gives clinic options and anonymous hotline numbers. The curriculum does not list talk to your parents as an option for kids seeking medical treatment. So on our next page here we have Shannon's story. Shannon has herpes, I believe, and she's worried. What does she do? She calls an anonymous hotline and gets treatment that way. We're talking about 11, 12, and 13-year-olds who cannot have aspirin when they go to the doctor, or when they go to the nurse after school, but they can be given all kinds of antibiotics, creams, whatever, antivirals, all kinds of things without their parents' knowledge. Without their parents' knowledge. This is a huge violation of parents' rights. We also have, after Shannon's story, we have the STD fact sheet. Again, does not ever mention telling your parents if you think you may have an infection of any kind. Then we have STD homework. They're told to call a hotline, an anonymous hotline, and talk about some questions, and then answer questions about how they were treated on that hotline. Okay, we're having a 12-year-old call an anonymous STD hotline. I do not know what they're going to hear, but I guarantee you it is not going to be a good thing. If we keep it on here. We also have a script in which the teacher is asking, as soon as something is wrong, or if you have unprotected sex, you should see a doctor. Not you should probably tell your parents, or even an older sibling, or an aunt, or an uncle, or an adult you trust. You should go and see a doctor immediately. That doctor could, if you're 13 years old, do you know what medication you're allergic to? I didn't know. If you go see a doctor, how are you going to be able to fill out that paperwork? Good question. Okay? All right, next slide, please. All right, so let's go back to the shack. So how did all this come about? The shack is comprised of community members, parents, that has to be the majority based on the TEC Title I, Chapter 28, and then also teachers and staff. And within that giant shack, you have a smaller sex ed subcommittee. They have other subcommittees like health and PE and nutrition and stuff like that. The sex ed subcommittee is always the coolest one to be a part of. I was able to attend some of these meetings. You have to be appointed to the shack, but we do have some applications in the back if you would like to start getting involved and being a part of the solution by getting on the shack and helping to kind of talk about these things and help get that other perspective in there. So the shack makes these decisions. The sex ed subcommittee gets together, they review curriculums, they make a recommendation to the shack approves it, and then the shack sends it to the school board. Okay, so was the shack manipulated into choosing draw the line, respect the line? This is a really, really complex case here, but I will try and be simple about it. There's a lot of players. We have Project Worth, UT Teen Health, Healthy Futures, Janet Rellini, Northeast ISD Shack, Diane Bolyard, City of San Antonio Teen Pregnancy Prevention Coalition, Mario Martinez, Metro Health, and of course Diane Bolyard. These are all names that you will probably become familiar with if you hang out with us long enough. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So you'll see in your packet, I have included many grants that the City of San Antonio or UT Health Science Center more specifically has been awarded. You're looking at a total of $10 million over a contract of 5 years. So there is a lot of money here. Now when UT Health Science Center gets money, they have to have a district to implement it in. And so this is where this kind of started and kind of began. So these are some of our key players. I'm going to show you a video here in a minute. But just so you know, Diane Bolyard is a nurse in Northeast ISD. She is also on the board of Healthy Futures. She's a voting member of the Sex Ed Subcommittee, so she holds a lot of power. Janet Rellini is a woman who has started many different groups here in San Antonio, Project Worth, Healthy Futures, and she's also in this Teen Pregnancy Prevention Coalition, so she's got a lot of titles. She also wrote Big Decisions, which, surprise, surprise, is the high school curriculum. So she was actually at the school board meeting protecting her interests and making sure that the school board did in fact vote for her own curriculum to begin. So if you'll take it to the next slide, Patrick. So we have a video, sorry I look really dumb there, but we can watch this video and it's going to explain a little bit about how this process went. It's very confusing. If you have questions, I can talk to you more in the back, but really I think I need a PhD to really understand it. So if you don't mind pressing play here, it'll let you play. Well, we will pause it then if you're not gonna. Sorry, usually it plays with the volume. Okay, well, we'll just go through it. So, the shack is, like I explained before, if you might go back here. There we go. Okay, so the shack is a group that's made up of parents and teachers and things like that. So, if I wanted to use that $10 million in grant money and get into a district, what would I do? I would put people on a shack, which is what they did. They put on that shack Diane Bolyard, and they had guest presenters like Mario Martinez come, and Belinda Hernandez from UT Health Science Center. And what these people would do is they would come to the shack meetings, they would sit at the shack table, and they represented more than 20% of the people at that table, and at all the meetings that I went to, and I counted and did my math there. So they're 20% of the people who are sitting there. They are allowed to talk about these different curriculums, they're allowed to promote different curriculums, give presentations, do all kinds of stuff. Are any other groups invited? No, just these groups. UT Health Science Center, City of San Antonio, Metro Health, Healthy Futures. Those are all those same players that we talked about here. Now, why are they in the shack? What is the purpose? Their purpose is to get their program there are only certain programs that this grant is going to fund. So if Northeast ISD SHAC does not pick one of those programs, guess what? That $10 million is gone. A lot of people aren't going to get their money. So Mario Martinez was at every single SHAC meeting that I was at, and he gave presentations on certain programs, the ones that he could promote so that he would get the grant money. Again, it's so confusing. So he did that, and why is UT Health Science Center even involved in all this? What is it that they gain from it? Go ahead. Get me past that one. There you go. My dumb one there. Keep going. Past the dumb one. There we go. Okay. UT Health Science Center, if it can get into Northeast ISD, it can A, build a clinic on your actual campus. B, set up tables during lunch so that kids can get information and services. Or C, drive a bus up to your campus and have the kids come on out and get any services they need. Condoms, implants, birth control, whatever, without the parents knowing, without the parents knowing, without the parents knowing. They can come right into your school, which is what they want. And if they can't come to your school, then they have many clinics all over the place that you can join. So does UT Health want to make your children their new clients? Yes. Why are they going behind parents' back to infiltrate the schools? So they can get right to the students. Ironically, you have to sign a form giving the school district permission to give your child an aspirin at school, yet children can be lured from the classroom to confidential teen sexual health clinics without parental knowledge or involvement, where they can be injected, implanted with long-lasting reversible contraceptives containing long-acting chemicals, and have medical devices implanted in their uterus, while parents are left in the dark. Does this new sex ed program promote that parents don't know what's best for their child? Okay? I mean, it really comes down to it. It's a breach of parental rights, and you have the right to know what they're sticking in your kid. And your kid has the right to know all the different consequences that come from putting something in their body that is going to be releasing a chemical for 3+ years during their developmental years. Great. So after all of this, does draw the line, respect the line even work? The answer is not for girls. So they have done studies. It's a very highly rated study, and it surveyed thousands of kids, and it surveys them when they start the program and when they finish, and then like a year after. It's a pretty thorough study. And what they found is that boys participating in the intervention were significantly less likely to report ever having sexual intercourse and having had sexual intercourse during the previous 12 months. This too should be in your handout as well if you want to kind of look at it. I think it's towards the back here. The study found, the most important part is the study found no statistically significant program impacts for girls on any of these outcomes. So whereas the boys did report less sexual interactions, the girls did not. It did nothing for the girls. So if we learn nothing from this presentation is that we, and I say we, Northeast ISD, has chosen a program that doesn't even help our girls. If you don't agree with anything else we've said, they've chosen a bum program. It doesn't work. Why can't we pick one that works? We need one that works. Okay, so if not draw the line, then what? Currently, there's a list of approved evidence-based programs. We're asking that the SHAC go back to this list and pick a curriculum that better serves the students and parents of Northeast ISD. I received a very exciting phone call today before I got here, so I couldn't add it to my slide. But we just found out that the curriculum that Northeast ISD was using last year is approved on this list, newly approved. So we don't even have to buy a new curriculum. We can continue using the one we have before. It's evidence-based. It has much higher rates of results of positive things for girls and boys. It's just a better choice all around. Or the SHAC is welcome to go and look at other programs. What we want to do is just get rid of this bum program. It's inferior in a million different ways. Can I get the next one? Okay, so what can parents do? First off, you can opt your child out of Draw the Line, Respect the Line. This is the example of a paper you will get, and I think it's also in your packet there, that will give you the choice to opt them in or out. Please click no. And then that way you can tell the district that you don't agree that this program is the best thing for your child, and then we can get moving on to getting something better in there. Number 2, tell your parent or your principal that you don't want to draw the line in your school. Contact the school board and let them know you don't want your child subjected to Draw the Line. And if your school board trustee doesn't protect your child, vote them out. Remember, they work for you. So Northeast ISD is broken up into clusters, and it's basically by high school, so you could be like the Reagan cluster or the Lee cluster. So based on your cluster, you have a trustee that's supposed to vote in your interest, and you can give them a call, and we will have information about who they are and how to get a hold of them. Okay, so thank you, and if you need more information, this is our website. We're still updating it all the time, and if you find anything that you think could be added, we would always appreciate that. But that was kind of a quick overview. Do we have any questions, or? Yes, sir.
I guess I'm kind of curious from the standpoint of why are they doing it? Is teen pregnancy within the age brackets for elementary? I mean for middle school, or is it really high school age and older? Because I think this is all inappropriate for middle school.
I would agree with you. It's hard to know exactly what their motivation is. I can tell you this, you can't make money as a health center if you don't have clients, and you don't have clients if they're not having sex. So the question is, what is their motivation on that? Can't tell you for sure, but that would be a really good question, I think, to bring to the school board.
I think $10 million.
Yeah, $10 million. Yes, and those contracts are also in here if you want to look at them.
Sure.
They show that they've already been signed.
The other question that I have is, how can a health facility do anything to my child, daughter or son, without me being there?
I was just going to say, laws are passed sometimes. I'll just give you an example. I used to teach abstinence and chastity many years ago. And one of the lessons that I had to teach was in the state of California, if your child was pregnant, they didn't have to notify you. In the state of California, they could take your daughter down and get her an abortion without you ever knowing it. Okay? This is why it's very important, and I know we have to be very careful on who we elect and who we put in place in our boards and even in our legislatures. Because oftentimes they have agendas, which, in my opinion, they got to make money. They want to stay in power. I had a situation where this one young lady, I spoke to another person that was working at a health clinic, and this young lady came in for a pregnancy. Her boyfriend wanted her to get an abortion. She didn't want it. She got an abortion. They implanted, Dr. Rivera in her. She's never able to have a child again. And she wanted children. Okay? I think we really need to look carefully at all this stuff that's going in and around our children. I've been in different districts throughout the United States and have listened to the different things that are going on. And so far, and don't let them baloney you, the abstinence stuff works the best so far. They're going to tell you otherwise. What was that one school in Mississippi? They're practicing the abstinence program. Their teen pregnancy rates went down. Kids now are having less sex. This is one way to get them to have sex again, so they can make money.
I guess I'm still kind of curious. I don't understand how a medical facility can provide any. They can't. I agree. I don't understand. I guess I'm ignorant, but I don't understand how a medical facility can do anything to my child without me being there.
But they do.
Brian has some information.
The state supports it. Right. If the state supports it, they can do it.
Well, the real problem is that the federal courts have mandated that there's opt-out things for children when it comes to sex and abortion. And so that's the real problem, is it's the federal court. So it's not even the state legislatures, because when they write the laws, they have to have a provision that's an opt-out thing. Now in Texas, supposedly you're supposed to have to go to a judge, a child is, to opt out. But what we find is that that rule's not very well enforced at all. And unfortunately, the facilities, like Planned Parenthood, You know, if you've seen Lila Rose's, some of her undercover videos, they'll go in there posing as 13, 14-year-old girls, and the Planned Parenthoods never report it like they're required under the law to do if they didn't come in with a court order. And so it's a bad conspiracy. But the big problem is the federal courts, if the laws aren't written so it has some sort of opt-out, then the courts will overturn the law altogether.
To answer your question in twofold, Tony, is that the Northeast Independent School District's justification and rationalization is the growth in EDS students, so economically disadvantaged students. The parameters for those children and where they hit economically and the parents' head has increased so much that they believe they have to cut it off the pass before teen pregnancy rates increase in the Northeast Independent School District to help these parents because they're not doing their job, is what they say. But in touching on what Brian just said, there's a website you can all go to called Jane's Due Process, and it's a judicial bypass, and it teaches people how to bypass the law. And so Jane's Due Process, and it's all set up to help them find a judge who will give them a judicial bypass so that they can go and get the child to have an abortion and avoid parental authority.
I was going to ask about when the parents opt out for their kids, what kind of guarantee do the kids have and parents that they won't be bullied? They wouldn't be bullied, harassed for being.
That is a good point.
A few that.
There are lots of kids that feel bullied that why are you the weird kid who has to sit at the library while all the other kids are learning about condoms? Good question, and we're actually going to address that some more. We have some bookmarks to give children that will give them some good responses back to that. But that's kind of a sad thing, right? That you would be bullied into, you would think they'd want to get out of class, right? But that's just kind of how society has set it up now, or how this kind of culture has set it up now. I can't tell you why, but it's definitely an unfortunate thing. Thank you for bringing that up. Like I said, it's a lot to cover, and there's probably a million questions you could have because we had to cover like years worth of stuff into one thing. Yes, ma'am.
Kelly, I don't know that, to me, seeing the video was a huge, I don't know that everybody here has seen.
Sure.
And I think that was a big red light.
Sure.
To me. So, I mean, that's really important just to mention that those videos, for a middle schooler to see that at school.
What's ironic is in the videos it has like a girl who's like 25 or 29 or something like that, because they can't show a 12-year-old putting a condom on a phallus symbol because that would be inappropriate. So, but we can teach them, we just can't show it. So again, if nothing else, this program doesn't work for girls. It doesn't work. And so we need to get a program that at least does something right. Why spend $10 million on something that does not work? And the one that we currently have now has much better results as far as effectiveness, much better. So why not stay with what we have and not do that? And the answer is money. If you look at the money trail. You want it? I have it on the PowerPoint. Why don't I? Yeah, I know it's all PowerPoint. You go back to the one. There you go.
Haven't they implemented these sex ed for children in California already at a younger age?
Pardon?
Haven't they already implemented some of these laws in California?
Probably.
For,
I don't know.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. It's just a matter of fact before they all start stripping all over here.
Right.
It's just a matter of fact. No matter of time.
That's it. I mean, you got to think about it. Your kids are going to be playing with their kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Well, I mean,
you think they're not going to exchange
And they're
information?
talking about the transgender thing already, to give them at such a young age. We're going to talk, these
Can we
kids,
go
they
toward-
can't have a brain can't even,
Can we go-
24 problems.
Good.
Can we go to our congressional representatives?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Yes.
So let's go over. I'm going to show you how to put a condom on a partner. But these are the same steps that a guy would take when putting a condom on himself. Always use a latex condom. They're highly effective at preventing pregnancy, HIV, and other STDs. If you or your partner is allergic to latex, you can use a plastic condom instead. Check the expiration date on the package. If it's past the date, use a newer condom. The package should look new. If it looks worn or damaged, use a new condom. Press slightly on the package to make sure that it's airtight, with no holes or tears. If there's a leak of any kind, use a new condom. When you finish checking the package, you're ready to open the condom. Open it carefully. Teeth, fingernails, and other sharp objects can damage the condom. Take it out of the package and see which way it unrolls. The condom will unroll easily when it's facing this way, but not when it's facing this way. The condom goes on as soon as the penis is hard and erect. Let me get my assistant. Pinch the tip to leave about ½ an inch at the end. This leaves room for the semen so that the condom doesn't break when the man ejaculates. Hold it against the head of the penis. Then with your other hand, unroll it all the way down to the base of the penis. You can use some water-based lube on the outside of the condom now if you want. And that's it. After ejaculation, after the guy comes, take the penis out while it's still hard. Hold the rim of the condom around the base as it's pulled out. Be careful not to spill any semen. Take the condom off away from the partner's body. You can tie off the end and throw it in the trash. Don't flush it down the toilet. That can clog up the plumbing. If you're going to have sex again, use a new condom. Don't ever reuse a condom. How easy was that? Some condoms come lubricated, and others don't. Even with a lubricated condom, you might want to use some extra lube. Don't use oil-based lubes like Vaseline or lotion. Those can cause the condom to break. Be sure to use water-based lubes, like these. Some guys like to put a few drops in the tip before putting the condom on. But don't overdo it. Too much lube can make the condom fall off. Practice will help you feel comfortable and confident when using a condom. So make sure to get in lots of practice. Men can practice while masturbating. Women can use their imagination and practice on something that sort of looks like a penis. Remember, condoms help prevent pregnancy and STD, including HIV. Use a condom every time you have sex. Relax. Stay safe and have fun.
Have fun.
That have fun part.
Have fun as long as you do it with environmentally safe. Can you go back to...
You know, a lot of this money, that $10 million needs to be going to parenting, so parents know when the proper time to have a child is, so they're not leaving their kids alone in all these environments you speak
And there is,
you know what I mean?
there is a male that gives a presentation as well in the video, and also a Spanish version.
The thing that killed me about the male one, he's very handsome, good looking, strong. I mean, I don't want my 11, 12-year-old seeing this.
Exactly.
Yeah, but this is the part that's omitted from this school board's thing.
Yes.
Well, they do say, and again, for full disclosure, Northeastern School District has said they're not going to use the videos, they're not going to use the props, and so when it comes to the penal code and what Kelly went over at the beginning of the session, so if that is true, if what they're saying is true, but we don't know that because when it was passed on May 9th, no restrictions were given and no restrictions were stated. And so as far as the voters are concerned, the constituents of Northeast Independent School District are concerned, Northeast Independent School Board of Trustees passed, draw the line, respect the line in total. That includes all curriculum materials that ETR has produced for this curriculum. Yes, you're right, they do say they're not going to use it. So the penal code specifically states that you're in violation if you use certain props like this to underage minors, and actually promoting sexual intercourse to minors 13 and under, in this case illegal to have sex, they cannot legally consent to sex in the state of Texas, you actually can be in violation of that. The issue is getting the Bexar County District Attorney to actually prosecute it, and it's not a highly popular thing to do. But two is we've been informed by our legal counsel is to focus on description. So in the penal code, so since Northeast Independent School District says they're not going to use the props, they're not going to use anything but words, there is a provision in the penal code that deals strictly with description. And so if you want to look at the penal code, look for description and go from there.
So I was at the meeting where we discussed what's called a red flag. where they talk about, where I actually raised my hand and said, well, what about the condom lesson? What if parents have problems with that? And Mario Martinez said, well, we don't have to use the condom lesson in the way that it appears as Herman uses the condom in that packet I gave y'all. We can use an adaptation. Well, what does it look like? It's a series of cards that show pictures, much like in the condom brochures, and they will have to put them in order. So it doesn't take a very big leap of a mother to imagine my 12-year-old daughter seeing pictures of erect penises and having to put that in order as to when it is she's supposed to slide a condom on. And these are the student workbooks. So even if they completely omit, which means I assume they're going to tear out every single one of these books, hundreds, we have 30 right here, that they're going to tear out every single one that talks about condoms. If you look at my books back there, I've labeled and read every single time they mention condoms, and basically the entire end of 8th grade is just condoms. We have completely eliminated all the rest of them.
Just to point out, everybody keeps saying 11 and 12-year-olds. 8th graders are not 11 and 12.
13 and 14.
So
still illegal, but yes, you're right. They're 13 and 14.
I understand, but I come here for information, not for scare tactics. So saying that my 12-year-old is going to be taught this is not accurate, because it's not in the 12-year-old curriculum. It is in the 8th grade curriculum.
It's actually in the 7th grade curriculum.
Who's all in the same grade, though? 6th, 7th, and 8th, isn't it?
But they would not.
So you're telling me they don't know how to interact with each other? Absolutely they do.
But they do that anyway.
Your point's valid, and I would say that it does begin rather overtly in 7th grade. So we are talking about 12-year-olds. And it does expand then for 13 and 14-year-olds. Most of them are 13 when it comes to 8th grade.
Now, another point was when you were talking about the STT lesson, which is for 7th grade, you said that they have to call a hotline. It actually does, just so that as you're making these future presentations, people are given the correct information as you're talking about it. The lesson actually says locate the website or call the hotline. It's also not just some random STD hotline. The number they list is for the CDC.
Yeah, it's not my narrative.
So I just, as you're presenting this information, you're saying you're trying not to point out that there's no conspiracy going on. So please, it's best so that if parents don't have a chance to read through this and they're just going off of what you're telling them, please make sure you're presenting the full information.
They'll have to either go to the website or call the hotline.
Right, but you were calling it an STD hotline, and it's the CDC.
Gotcha. Or cdc.gov/STD.
And that's even the phone number that's mentioned earlier in the lesson for her. I double-checked the numbers written here. And then it's also there, but it does say CDC. It's not just an STD hotline.
It's not a political hotline, it's the actual federal government.
Understand.
But you have to ask questions, so you would have to talk about it.
Well, understandable, but if you're teaching a lesson on STDs, which is probably something that's already taught anyway, because especially for 8th graders who can actually take high school health and get their high school credit in 8th grade if they choose to take that, obviously they're going to have a lesson on STDs in that high school health class that they're taking in 8th grade. And I know that there's lessons on STDs in the high school health class.
The difference is that teachers have been trained on what they can and can't say, and the CDC doesn't necessarily have that sort of training. So they may say something to your child that might not be considered appropriate at the Northeast ISD level. And so we just have to keep that, and who is talking to our children about STDs, condoms, and sex is as important as what they are saying. Is that correct?
Oh, I understand that, but obviously a parent should also be helping their kid with homework, and they do send home the letter about here's when we're giving the information out. Come to the meeting, hear about it. They also give you the link on the website that you can go to see all of the lessons that are being taught, and as what's being taught in class, as well as what's being sent home for homework. And you know what week it's going on, because it says so in the letter, that we're presenting the information this week. It'll be taught probably usually 3 to 4 weeks later, I think, what I got from my daughter's 6th grade health class. So you have plenty of time to do your own research. You have plenty of time to get your information and know what's going on, and also know, okay, Monday's lesson was about STDs. When my daughter comes home that night, I make sure I ask her, what's your homework?
Does she bring homework home?
I consider this preventative maintenance, because it's just a matter of time before everybody starts.
So we have to be out of here at 8 o'clock, and so if there's remaining questions, but again, just so you know that we are actually trying to give accurate information. You got a handout that gave you that information. So from that standpoint, from that standpoint, we gave the complete information. It's important you took the advantage of reading it. So we're not hiding things. We're giving an educational seminar here. You picked up, you made a good point. The information was there because we provided it to you. So thank you.
This was very informative to me. I do appreciate you.
So we have time for one more question, and let me go back here.
I just think I was very offended by the message that was left, and I had children in my house, and they had friends over. That was not.
The robocall message.
It was very upsetting.
Well, it was intended to have a parental guidance message on the first. Make sure that you're no children around when you did this. It got omitted. I apologize for that. But we appreciate you coming out tonight. Thank you all for being here.
Be aware of that.
Be glad to answer information outside the room. We have to be out here at 8 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Future sessions tomorrow.